All right, everyone, buckle up, because today we are diving headfirst into a file marked Plant 42 report.
Plant 42 report.
Yeah, Plant 42 report. And let me tell you, this is not your grandma's prize-winning petunia.
Oh, I can only imagine. What kind of plant needs its own file, let alone a whole report?
Well, that's what we're here to uncover, right? From what I can gather, this thing is the result of, shall we say, a scientific mishap. And it seems to have sent the whole place into a frenzy.
Interesting, a scientific mishap. You know, science gone wrong is always a recipe for a good story.
This one's a doozy. Picture this. An old mansion, almost Gothic, nestled deep in the Arklay Mountains.
Okay, I'm picturing it. Arklay Mountains, you said.
That's right. Isolated, cut off, the perfect backdrop, really. The report mentions some kind of incident, people infected with what they're calling the T-viruses.
T-virus. Sounds ominous.
It gets worse. Raccoon City is on the brink of total collapse. Sounds like a scene straight out of a horror movie.
Okay, you've got my attention. So where does the plant fit into all of this?
Well, that's the creepy part. This Plant 42, it seems to be thriving in the chaos. Our report is from a Henry Sarton, dated May 21st, 1998. That's just 4 days after whatever went down. He calls Plant 42's growth amazingly fast.
Amazingly fast, huh? Faster than normal plant growth, even with, what did you call it, the T-virus?
I got it. It's like it's feeding off the chaos, mutating into something,
Yeah.
well, unrecognizable.
No, that's unsettling. You see accelerated mutations in nature, but nothing quite that dramatic, at least not naturally. It makes you think about Chernobyl.
Chernobyl.
Yeah, the radiation had a huge impact on the local ecosystem. Plants, animals, they all mutated, often in really strange ways. Or think about how viruses can completely hijack their hosts, changing how they function on a fundamental level. It all points to this. Even tiny changes at the genetic level can have huge consequences, and we're often not prepared for what those consequences might be.
And speaking of consequences, wait until you hear about this plant's dietary choices.
I'm almost afraid to ask, but go on.
Yeah. Sarton's report, it describes these roots submerged in the mansion's flooded basement. He thinks it's absorbing all sorts of nasty chemicals down there. But then it gets really interesting.
Okay, so flooded basement, chemicals, mutated plant. I'm sensing a but coming.
Oh, there's a but. All right. This plant, it has these dangling bulbs and, get this, with vines that snatch people.
It what? Snatches people, like as a defense mechanism?
That's a thing. Sarton says it senses movement and then bam, it attacks. It's like something out of John Howard. Even has blood-sucking vines.
Blood-sucking vines. Blood-sucking vines. That's a new one. But as horrifying as it sounds, there's a sort of logic to it. Gruesome, but logical. Think about it. This plant's environment, flooded, probably full of all sorts of nasty stuff, and then there's people, potential prey. It's a recipe for this kind of grotesque evolution.
Survival of the fittest, I guess.
Yeah.
But hold on, there's more. It gets weirder.
Weirder? You said it had blood-sucking vines. How could it possibly get weirder?
Sarton describes this plant, Plant 42, as showing signs of intelligence. He mentions it blocking doors, especially when it's trapped something.
Trapped something, you mean?
You got it.
Yeah.
And listen to this. He even uses the word sleeping to describe its dormant periods. This isn't just some plant. It's unsettling.
Hold on a second. Intelligence is a loaded word. While plants are incredibly complex, they don't think the way we do. They don't plan or strategize. It's more likely that Plant 42 is just reacting to its environment, right? It senses a change, maybe a potential threat, and it reacts accordingly. It's self-preservation, but on a whole other level.
So to recap, we have a super mutated plant growing at an insane rate, feeding off who knows what in that flooded basement. It's got these blood-sucking vines, a taste for, well, people. And it seems to be, well, aware of its surroundings. To a certain degree, it's like something out of a science fiction novel.
It is a bit unsettling, isn't it? This Plant 42 is like a glimpse into the raw power of nature, the potential for things to go awry, especially when we start tinkering with things we may not fully understand.
Makes you wonder, what are the limits here? If something like this can happen in a contained environment like that mansion, what's to stop it from happening elsewhere?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? As we continue to unlock the secrets of genetics, of manipulating life itself, it becomes increasingly important to consider the potential consequences, both intended and unintended. Because sometimes nature has a way of surprising us, and not always in a good way.
That's for sure. Well, folks, there you have it. The bizarre case of Plant 42. This one definitely gives a new meaning to the phrase, deadly nightshade. Until next time, stay curious, but maybe stay away from any plants acting a little too intelligent.